Donkey Kong is Nintendo's most important franchise and is one of the most recognizable IPs in the entire library, and for a good reason. Donkey Kong was the game that got Nintendo on the map. All the way back in 1981, a little game would show up in arcades around the globe about a man in red overalls trying to save his beautiful girlfriend from the clutches of a giant red-haired gorilla with his name right in the title, all in pixelated glory. By now you probably know the story. Shigeru Miyamoto was tasked to make a game that would rival or even surpass the titular Pac-Man in the arcade scene. Nintendo at this point had around 2,000 radar scope arcade machines that were unsold and unloved. With his creative mind and ingenuity, dear old Miyamoto took inspiration from one of his childhood classic cartoons, Popeye, and a very popular kaiju at the time. Oh, what was his name again? Oh yeah, King Kong! With all the blood, sweat, and tears that he could muster, Shiggy and his team created the game Donkey Kong, and Nintendo has been a staple of gaming ever since. The game would be ported for years on a variety of consoles, but a few of the more popular ones were the famous NES port, which took one of the levels out for some strange reason, the Commodore 64, an Atari 2600 version, and even the ColecoVision and Intellivision had their own. Nintendo would even port the game to their own hardware years later with things like the GBA, and on the Wii with Virtual Console. Even on the Switch now you can pick up and play. Donkey Kong was so popular that he even got his own television show, and even a year later after the game's official release, Shigeru's favorite show would even copy the formula for his own game on the exact same console. It was like an infestation. It would get two direct sequels, Donkey Kong Jr. and Donkey Kong 3. The third game had you play as a man named Stanley trying to save his plants from the Kong in question, as well as other weird things like bugs. But it was the sequel, Donkey Kong Jr., that to me is the most interesting. You see, it isn't just a game where you play as DK's son. No, it isn't the fact that Mario himself is the villain in this one, no. Many have speculated and even believe that the character that you're playing as, that monkey in the white bathing suit, well, he would grow up to be the Donkey Kong that we know today. The original Donkey Kong would age up to be Cranky Kong, and other family members would eventually join in on the fun. But what happened? Well, it all started with a little company known as Ultimate Play the Game, before becoming the titan Rareware. What, you don't know them? You wouldn't know them anyway. They were only responsible for some of the greatest games that a kid anywhere has ever known! We're on that part of the script, aren't we? Yeah, okay. One go? Yeah, I'll try. Jetpack, Attic Attack, Saberwolf, Battletoad, Snake Rattle Roll, Slalom, Digger T-Rock, Wizards of Warriors, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest, Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Trouble, Killer Instinct, GoldenEye 007... Perfect Dark, Blast Corps, Jetson, Gemini, K.I. Gold, Diddy Kong Racing, Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day! Oh my god, so many good fucking games! So many good fucking games! Drontron said it best. These guys were like the Beatles of video games. They could take just about any genre they wanted and set the bar while they were at it. You saw all the games that I listed, and just about all of these are fondly remembered. Even the most flawed games that they had can still make a person of any age crack a smile as wide as they come to this day. And Donkey Kong was no different. You see, while they were doing okay on the NES with stuff like Battletoad, Slalom, and Snake Rattle and Roll, they used all the money that they accumulated to buy Silicon Graphics computers. And once Nintendo caught wind of this, they bought half the company right then and there. It was then that they were tasked to make a new Donkey Kong game to rival another very popular, yet forgotten character that was making his rounds on the Sega Genesis, Earthworm Jim. They figured using new art studio grade technology they acquired, they could create a new, cooler Donkey Kong, a character that the hip young 90s kids would immediately latch onto, one that wasn't out to save the world. Fuck, he wasn't even out to save his girlfriend. No, he just wanted his stuff back. This is what me and many others that were part of the demographic like to call the play it loud generation. And what they did here was ingenious and not a lot of people did at the time. They took the original characters, aged them up, and gave them new roles. The arcade Donkey Kong would eventually grow to be the wisecracking Cranky Kong, and the title of Donkey Kong would be given to his son. Nephew? To be honest, nobody's really sure, but let's go with son. It just feels right like that. Others would be created just for the Donkey Kong Country universe, with characters like Diddy Kong, Funky Kong, and Candy Kong to start us out. Our enemies would be the Kremlings, ruled over with a scaly iron fist by the likes of King Commander Rule. And actually, they have a little history about them as well. Originally, the Kremlings were going to be part of something very different. Supposedly, they were going to be common enemies you found in Battletoads of all things. Yeah, this blew my mind when I found out. Their glorious king was actually named in 5 minutes, but you know what? That's all the time it took to give him one of the most recognizable names, and because of his status as the de facto main enemy of the Kongs, he would go on to garner a cult fanbase and finally star in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate years later, where he would return after a long hiatus to finally dunk on some mean gunner mains. Now that you know a good chunk of the history, now we can finally get into the game itself. The game that I may not have started with as a Donkey Kong fan, but is the biggest reason why I'm a Donkey Kong fan. Donkey Kong Country was launched on the Super Nintendo in 1994 and had a couple of ports, one on the Game Boy Color and one on the Game Boy Advance. Now, some of you may think that there was one on the original Game Boy, but that was actually a game with its own story. And what is the story of Donkey Kong Country? For this, we're gonna have to look at the manual. It was a dark and stormy night. Man, you gotta love when old video game manuals gave you a story in the first few pages. Anyway, the Kremlings attack in the middle of the night, stuff him in a barrel and toss him to the side and steal the entire banana horde. Donkey Kong wakes up to see both Diddy and his most excellent stash of snacks gone. Rightfully pissed about it. It's up to you to get Donkey Kong from one side of the island all the way to the other, beat back the scaly menace, and get his shit back. As I said before, Donkey Kong wasn't out to save some damsel in distress or even the world as we knew it. No, he was a 90s guy, and he just wanted his stash back. We start out right at Donkey Kong's house, and it's here that we can either move forward, go back and peek inside his banana cave, or even go up these steps to go right back into the house itself. This is the game teaching you that you should go in every direction, exhaust every option you have, and find all sorts of collectibles. This, to me, is great game design because it doesn't immediately start you out in the thick of danger. It gives you a moment to really take in your surroundings. Maybe stand around as you listen to the slow drum and critter noises getting louder and louder, until it finally explodes in a serenade of sound and music that just hits you like a banana slammer punch to the ears. The guy who did the music was a little-known artist at the time, David Wise, and he has quickly become one of my favorite composers in all of gaming history. Anyone else, and it would probably be other members of Rare like Grant Kirkhope, who would eventually go on to make the music for Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong 64, funny enough. This wouldn't even be David's best kind of music, as it does have some of the more memorable tracks here, but as I said before, you have the build-up of Donkey Kong's Island Swing, to the legendary aquatic ambience. And David has been known to be able to compose tracks that perfectly fit the environment, even when you're in the middle of ruins that hint at some sort of lost Kremlin culture, signifying that they were once here before you were. There's a lot of little touches both in the music and in the artistic direction itself that shows that there's more to this story than just Kremlings and Kongs mindlessly fighting, but it never straight up tells you, leaving it to the imagination. Donkey Kong Country is famous for a few things, and one of them is the atmosphere. In fact, it takes pride in leaving you alone to indulge in everything around you. You see, most games would show off a HUD or some kind of information at all times, whether it's your health, the number of lives you have, the number of points, coins, ammo, everything that you would want right then and there. But with Donkey Kong Country, that's not the case here. You see, when you're not collecting anything, your HUD is completely void. When I grab a banana, you can see that only a part of that HUD comes back to show me the number of bananas I've collected. The same goes for my lives. If I ever collect a balloon or lose a life, that's all you need right there in that moment. These letters that spell out the word Kong, they will only show if I collect it. It's a wonderful feature that more games in the future would use. Anyway, moseying right along, you'll notice that your enemies are very weird and wacky creatures that strangely feel fitting for a Donkey Kong Country game. I'm talking stuff like beavers that go by the name of Naughty, the Kremlings like Critter, Clump, and Crusher, giant bees known as Zingers, vultures, or neckies as the game calls them, and even in the water with the likes of sharks, clams, and octopi, which are cleverly named, get this, croctopus. That isn't to say that you're completely defenseless against the obviously dangerous opposition. Donkey Kong has friends in the likes of animal buddies, the answer to Super Mario's Yoshi. Actually, a lot of this game is directly inspired by the plumber. You hop on enemies to finish them off, you ride on an animal friend to give you an extra hit, but the only difference is that while Super Mario has to rely on things like mushrooms, fire flowers, and even capes to survive, Donkey Kong doesn't have any of that. Instead, you have Diddy Kong, who you find very early in the game as your power-up, and honestly, I heavily prefer this. You see, throughout the whole game as Mario, it's only you, but if you have a friend, they can play as Luigi. Well, that's all well and good, but even if it's just you playing, Donkey Kong is never alone. No, much like a familiar two-tailed fox, he tags right behind you, making this adventure feel not as lonely. In fact, your whole family is here to help you along your way. Cranky Kong, one of my favorite characters, just for the sheer fact that he likes to dunk on his own grandson for shits and giggles, will be seen at one of his many huts, ready to give you advice on the first level and only the first level. I guess Alzheimer's is gonna do that to you. He never talks about any other levels. Apparently this was a bug in the original version. Funky Kong, the surf-riding dude-man bro, who will be seen at a shindig on every map, ready to take you to any place that you've ever visited for no money whatsoever for the service. What a cool guy. Candy Kong, the, love interest, if you can even call her that, can be found on every part of the island to help you save your game. Hey, Donkey Kong loves her and that's all that matters to her. She don't need your sass. With this setup, it genuinely feels like a community looking out for their own. If one Kong gets threatened, the entire family is ready to stand up and take back what's theirs. This is only one of the many things that I feel Donkey Kong does best that most other games, not even Mario, does. The world, the characters, each and every one of them are truly memorable for one reason or another, and they're all willing to help you for nothing. It's a sense of community that I feel just no other game has ever perfected. Even the animal buddies have a sense of belonging, and honestly, they might be the best part about this game for me. Rambi is a rhinoceros that's built like a tank, completely indestructible from the front and vulnerable in the back. Much like how you can knock enemies and even open up sections with bonus rooms, our horned friend can do it all by himself without a need for barrels. On Guard is a swordfish that you can find in certain underwater segments that's essentially the Rambi of the ocean. Completely unkillable from the front and vulnerable everywhere else. Only certain obstacles can even call themselves good enough to hurt your animal buddy no matter where, but there are so far and few in between, but projectiles can still hurt you no matter what, so just be aware of that. Espresso is a goofy ostrich that can actually hover if you jump in the air and continuously press the jump button. The only downside to his speed and flight is that everything can hurt you save for the claptraps and you can't even attack back. You can lose him very easily, so if you do end up grabbing him, be sure to keep him alive at all costs. If you do end up losing a buddy, hopefully they hit a wall and they turn back because you can still jump on them and ride them again. Squawks is one of your more memorable animal buddies, but unfortunately he's only put in a single stage, carrying a flashlight so that you can even see what you're doing. There's this horrible strobe effect that whenever you turn, it just shines the light on you, and it just gives me a headache. Later games give him the treatment that he so rightfully deserves, but for now he just kinda exists. And Winky the Frog is the most perfect thing that ever existed, and nobody can tell me otherwise. This frog has a hop that puts the famous plumber to shame, and is the only animal buddy that can effectively hop on indestructible enemies like red-colored zingers with no problems. I honestly wish they did more with the animal buddies, because they're so much fun to use no matter which one you have. At least let me ride them as long as I want like Yoshi. I can understand certain stages, like the later levels like the minecart, but what's stopping me from just carrying them off after the level ends? The first world has you running through Donkey Kong's jungle, and it's up to the first part of his horde, guarded by a giant beaver by the name of... get this, very naughty. And it's here that all you have to do is hop on his head a total of 5 times. I guess we're punishing him for all the inexcusable sins that he committed with a name like that. I mean, Donkey Kong probably sees him as some type of lameoid that needs to die.
You see, little buddy, there's only 2 rules on this island. Don't ever touch my stash, and you must be a totally cool rockin' dude. Okay, and what happens if you're not?
If you are not, in fact, a cool dude, or if you have touched the sacred bananas, So help you Inka-Dinka-Doo, I will find you, and I will kill you.
Whoa! Oh, anyway, if you take one thing away from this, it's that you should let the enemies finish their animations before trying to hop on them again. Otherwise, you're just gonna get bumped off. Trust me when I say this, if you don't learn this lesson well, you're gonna end up with a bruised butt more often than not. Much like Mario, each Kong only has one hit in them before they run off screaming into the night, and then you're left with the other Kong as you traverse through the level. That is until you come up to a barrel with Donkey Kong's initial right on there. Picking up the barrel and tossing it will give you that Kong back, but you better be careful because getting hit again means losing the Kong that you're controlling at the time. Now, I know you're probably wondering what the difference is between the two, so let's get an even closer look. Donkey Kong, being the slow and lumbering ape that he is, can hop on bodies that Diddy Kong can't even touch unless he rolls into them. Even with that, only a select few enemies can be killed that way as Diddy, so it's still a good idea to let the hero of the story take the lead from time to time. Diddy Kong, while he may not be as strong as his big buddy, can get into all sorts of places that Donkey Kong just can't reach, whether it be high into the trees or in a spot far away that he may not even be able to have the jump towards, even with the roll. The controls are spot on. If you've ever played another platformer, you'll know what I mean. You have your run, your jump, that's all well and good, but Donkey Kong has a few other tricks up his hairy sleeves. If you press down and hit the run button, he does his signature hand slam on the ground. Supposedly this is to help find goodies on the ground, but I actually don't find myself using it at all. In fact, I don't think a lot of people ever need it at all throughout the adventure. Falling from a great height doesn't hurt you, and it usually does the job. I'm sure it has its uses somewhere, but I can't remember them. But a move that everyone uses that you must master in order to complete this game is the rolling attack. You see, pressing the run button will have Donkey or Diddy do a roll or a cartwheel, and it can kill just about everything in front of it save for zingers or projectiles coming your way, while also giving you a speed boost as long as there are killable things in front of you. The cool thing about this move is that it's not just for rolling enemies, or even speedrunning the game. You see, every so often you'll see a collectible hovering in the air, usually right above something that can kill you like a bottomless pit or a zinger. Your first instinct is to try and hop on it to see if you can nab it, and that's gonna kill you. Instead, rolling off the edge of a platform will have them doing the roll, but if you press the jump button, they'll jump in midair. This is a mechanic I simply call the rolling jump. It's not just for collecting items either, it's also for correcting your jumps if you overshoot something like a platform and positioning yourself in such a way to jump right over a baddie you may not even hit if you continue to roll. This mechanic is one of my absolute favorites because it's something that's so simple that anyone can do, but it's such a thing that can be mastered and in return rewards you if you pull it off correctly, either with jumping onto a set of enemies while still continuing the momentum or saving you from an untimely death. And if you want to get good at this game, you're gonna have to learn to use this, as many of these kind of jumps in the later levels are not gonna be done with simple platforming. This is a series with a difficulty curve, and many fans will tell you that Donkey Kong Country is one of the harder platformers that they've played, but that isn't to say that it's not fair. It gives you the tools to survive, but it doesn't hold your hand. That's the mark of a great game. Anyway, the second world has you going to the mines, and this is home to one of the most infamous parts of Donkey Kong Country, the minecart levels. They're fast, furious, and leave you no time to think as you continuously jump over obstacles like Kremlings rolling down the lanes, knocked over minecarts, broken sections of the level, and you'll have to master the timing if you want to get some of the collectibles along your way. Even the music fits the sheer panic you must be feeling right now, even holding the fucking controller. Damn it! More mines and such later, and you'll be faced with the second boss, Master... oh, good God. Necky. Master Necky. God, that sounds like a really bad name to give to somebody who does a really good hickey. Anyway, you bounce on the tire, you dodge his giant nuts, and you smack him over the noggin to continue forward. God, these fucking bosses. While we're here, I just want to point out that after beating a boss, you get this one giant banana, but you're in an arena filled with bananas. Why care about the one when you got the mountains right behind you? I guess it would age too quickly in the old banana horde cave compared to the one fat one that drops in front of us, who knows. The third world has you running through a pinewood forest, while plenty of neckies and their offspring will try to shoot you down in any which way they can. You'll find others like zingers hovering around, but keep dodging and climbing those ropes and you'll get through okay. You'll even get to see one of the other set pieces, a full-on village in the trees with all the lights turned on. You know, back when I was a kid, I always wondered who was living in those huts. Was it the Kremlings? Were they setting up base here? Were there Kongs that I never knew about? I mean, the game never tells you. It never tells you anything, but it's both frustrating and cool to think about. Your next boss is Queen Bee. Yep, just a bee. Jesus. And all you gotta do is just pick up a barrel and sting her right in the ass. Yeah, she'll get pissed off and start doing this up and down movement thing in which you can't hit her again until she turns back to yellow, but she's not that difficult at all. She's not even much to talk about. If anything, she's even easier than Very Naughty in the beginning because all you have to do is just throw a barrel. You don't even need to go anywhere near her. Actually, is that the reason why bees are dying? No, not because of the parasites, no, fuck that, but is it because Donkey Kong is throwing barrels at their queen? How many queens has he killed? How many queens need to die until his hunger is satisfied? Quickly, get Barry on the phone, we got a lawsuit on our hands!
Those just get me psychotic!
The fourth world is a gorilla glacier, home to all the snow that you can muster and the one ice level that you're never gonna see again. Not much to say here, you have blue zingers now that have their own patterns for you to avoid and... neckies. Seriously, why are they here? In any case, Slip Slide Ride has some really great music while you're running around on the ice. You have to deal with ropes that if you grab onto, depending on the color, you'll either slip up or down automatically. Think of it as like an escalator. I mean, just jump off at the right time and you'll be fine. But Gorilla Glacier is home to really naughty. Of course. And it's literally a palette swap of Very Naughty. Oh, great. He's just hopping higher. You can tell that they didn't know what else to put here, and that's one of the few gripes that I have about this game. In fact, let's just go ahead and talk about this now. Bosses are reused in a couple of places. The Necky fight and the Naughty fight here. Yeah, they're still fun, but to be honest, I'd much rather have a new boss. I mean, in the port for the Game Boy Advance, they mix things up by having the Naughty fight play out, but now you have stalactites in the ceiling to worry about as he drops them down. The Necky fight has you fighting both Junior and Senior at the same time. So I mean, at the very least, they try to give it a little bit of flavor, but like, really? The other thing is that a lot of the level assets are reused. Donkey Kong Country in its entirety only has 4 fantastic-looking jungle levels. There are 2 treetop stages, only 1 ice cave level, 4 underwater stages, and you want to know how many cave stages there are? 10! 10 stages that are in a deep, dark cave. That's a crock of shit, but you know what? I'll pull back a little on the punch. Donkey Kong Country was built with a shorter development time and a lot of pressure on their conscience. I'm sure they did the best they could, and look at how great the game is anyway. Each world gives you a new backdrop, wonderful music, sharp and focused design, and we haven't even gotten to our next world yet, which might just be my favorite. And that favorite would be the factory. Turns out K. Rool somehow built a whole-ass factory on top of the island's head, and now we're here to punish all of the innocent co-workers just doing their jobs and supporting their families, like a true hero! You don't even know what they're building here, but what is here is plenty of faulty lights, orangutans, known as Manky Kong, to throw barrels at you old Donkey Kong style, mystery floating flaming oil barrels, wait, do the Kremlings know how to make these on purpose? You know, come to think about it, what else could they be building in here? Could they be making bombs or something to blow up the island? Or just outright kill the denizens? Oh god, it's already heavily implied that they wanted to take the bananas to starve the Kongs out and take over the island, so were they just making these to finish the job? Oh, Jesus Christ! Not only this, but the boss of this factory is a giant self-conscious oil drum by the name of... oh... his name is Dumb Drum. Okay, he doesn't outright burn the Kongs to a crisp, but just dumps a few common enemies? Oh, no wonder he's called Dumb Drum. That's fucking dumb! You see, along your travels, you find these little drums that enemies would pop out of, so this really isn't all that surprising. You just kill the enemies, you dodge the drum when it tries to butt stomp you, and then you just kind of watch it kill itself after you beat the last couple of baddies. Wow, this was a disappointment. And this was supposed to be my favorite stage? Jesus Christ, I might have to rethink that. Well, after we took care of that problem, we go right to the island's nose to Chimp Caverns, and it's here that you'll be worrying about platforms that need fuel in order to keep going. Caves, caves, and more caves. You know, you'll be dealing with a bunch of spike tires and most of the enemies that you've come to face from already, but you know what, I've got to be honest with you, I don't care for this. I honestly think it should have ended with the factory, because at least with that, it was an entirely new area to explore. Here it's just the same caves we've seen plenty of times. It just gets harder. That's it. That's all it has going for it. Fucking Christ. I'll spare you the details and tell you about the boss, who's just Neki Jr., just colored slightly different and given the senior title. Great. He just throws more nuts, he's a little faster and a lot more annoying, but you know what, if you got this far, you already know what to do. But after beating him, we finally jump onto King K. Rool's ship to fight him 2-on-1. Easily the best boss fight in the game, for 3 reasons. Firstly, just look at him! This is where one of my favorite villains out of Nintendo's history started. He's big, fat, lumbering, he's got a crooked eye, jagged teeth, he's all regal, and he's all wrapped up in a cape and crown. He'll run towards you, hop menacingly, and drop some cannonballs on you. You need to wait for him to throw his crown so that you can bop his face to finish the fight. Secondly, that glorious music! Easily one of the most recognizable songs in the entire game. It starts with this normal pirate shanty, but then it builds up to this king's crescendo, with a hint of a western cowboy theme. Just listen. This song is so great to so many people, they even remixed it for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Yeah, it started with Brawl, but you know what? This one's the real theme. Lastly, when you finally beat him, the credits roll. Oh, you sneaking, conniving son of a bitch! You know what, just that one little scene, they didn't need to do it, and they did anyway. You know what, I'm not even mad. I mean, how could I? The music kicks ass, the fight itself is fun, and it only gets harder from here. He does one final push, and after finally beating him, you get your just rewards. Your last giant banana. You did it, DK, you finally got your stash back! And after getting your last giant banana, you're rewarded with actual credits. We got a little enemy roll call, as well as showing off the good guys at the end, which is a nice little touch. I always loved these when old video games did this. It was really charming. And hell, even Donkey Kong and Diddy do a little skit, which always made me laugh as a kid. And after this, the game would reset and you can play from the beginning again. Of course, if you go back to your save file and go back to the very first stage, going back into your banana horde, you'll find that everything's back where it belongs. Donkey Kong even does a little victory animation showing his appreciation, and then you can go right back to what you were doing, playing any of the levels to your heart's content. Guys, I need to say it. I know I've said this before, but I need to say it again. This game, despite the flaws that I've listed, is one of the best games that I've played in all of my life. Even more than Godzilla Monster of Monsters, and definitely more than Gamera 2000, despite how good that one was. It's hard for me to put into words, but I'll do the best I can. Back when I was still a young kid, when my mother was still around and my aunt was taking care of me, I would play this game with them. And now they showed me a lot of great games, including the original, but this was the one that I kept coming back to when it was new. The amazing visuals, the characters, the music that would stay with me forever. Everything about this game and others in the series resonated with me. It starts a universe that I could easily enjoy with all of the zany antics included. When I was 10 years old and my mother passed away, I was left in this depressed mood that I didn't even understand, being that young. And I kept looking for things to keep my mind off of what I truly lost, and while I never forgot, there was at least one person in their family that kept me around. My aunt eventually adopted me, took me in with their kids, and my cousins, and I would be introduced to a whole slew of things. Things like the GameCube, with games like Resident Evil 0, Luigi's Mansion, and Super Smash Bros. Melee, the Xbox with Halo, and Oddworld Munch's Odyssey, and even the PlayStation 2 with games like The Suffering, and even backwards compatibility, so I could finally experience what I missed from Sony, like Crash, Spyro, Rayman, and the original Resident Evil, Gex included. But even with that expansive library that I was finally granted access to, all of these great games, the one game I kept going back to even after all these years was Donkey Kong Country. My mother was a gamer too. I remember her having the high score on the original Bomberman on NES. One of her favorite games of all time was the original Donkey Kong Arcade, which was almost always stuck in the console when I opened it up. That was her Donkey Kong, the Donkey Kong that I also grew up with. And much like Godzilla, Donkey Kong would be just as big in my life, if not more. Donkey Kong Country was my Donkey Kong. Mom and my aunt introduced me to the Big Ape, and while it made me a fan, yeah, Donkey Kong Country solidified my love. Hell, I was so much of a Donkey Kong fanatic that I watched the television series on broadcast whenever it was available. My mom would get me the movie, based on the Legend of the Crystal Coconut. She'd get me the toys, which I still have to this day. My fiance's brother last Christmas even got me a Creme Coin. Yeah, a real Creme Coin based on the sequel. It was the most thoughtful gift I've ever received, yet that was just under the gift of love. What I'm saying is, while the original Donkey Kong Arcade lit a spark in my heart thanks to the people that I know and love helping it grow, it was the first Donkey Kong Country that truly made the fire burn, and it still burns to this day. It's a bonfire, and I can't thank the two of them enough, my aunt and my mom. Auntie Me, if you're watching this right now, you may not remember much, but I want to thank you for all of the memories, all the love and dedication you put into raising me right. I know your sister would be proud of you. Thank you for everything. And now, on a much higher note, Donkey Kong Country wouldn't be the last that we would see of my favorite ape. No, there would be sequels, and one would put more fuel to that fire in my heart to truly turn it into a bonfire. One that would prove to be even better than the original, and one that would become my favorite game of all time. We're gonna be looking at Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest, a game that takes things to new heights and truly brings the world of Donkey Kong to a new level. Please, if you enjoyed what I had to offer, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Even leaving a comment inspires me to continue this series, and if you want to be really awesome, why not check out our Patreon? We got a couple of cool things over there, and it'll help fund the show and help me get better equipment and more games to review for you guys. In any case, I'll see you in the next episode, and I'll catch you all on the flip side.